Hello! I'm back with another video, kind of. Today I'm going to be doing a wrap-up of everything that I've done so far this year. It's going to be books, it's going to be TV shows, it's going to be films. We're going to do a bunch. So, we'll start with the books, because that's what probably most people are here for. So, I've only read two things so far this year, and one of them I don't actually have with me anymore. But that was The Wicked and the Divine, the Faust Act, which is the graphic novel series that was sort of popular, sort of got really mediocre reviews, and I'm going to add to the kind of mediocre reviews. I think I gave it 3 stars. The concept is that there are 12 gods who are reincarnated every, can't remember how many years, but they're reincarnated. And the concept is really good. It's a really interesting story. I think that worked really well. What didn't work is how it was executed. The storyline in the first volume that I read was just a bit weird. The art itself is stunning, which is great, but I'm not sure if I'm keen to carry on the series. The actual book I read was Tin Man by Sarah Winman. This follows the story of Ellis and Michael, who are 2 friends that are kind of torn apart by some odd happenings. This book was so sad. It was so beautifully written. It's very character focused. You kind of flip, you see Ellis's perspective and then you flip back to Michael, and it's very different from what I was expecting. But I actually read this on the recommendation of my aunt, so thank you, Aunt Katie. It was really good, but really sad and kind of confusing, and I feel like I need to reread it in the future because it was just so beautiful. I think I'd give it a 4 out of 5 stars. So, that's kind of literally everything I've read so far, so that's depressing. Then we'll move on to some of the TV shows that I'm currently watching and loving. We'll talk about the 2 that I've finished this year so far, and that is One Day at a Time, Season 2, and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Season 1 on Amazon Prime and Netflix. One Day at a Time is a show that everyone should be watching. It is so funny. It is a story of a Cuban family in America, and they all have to kind of deal with different things, and it has Rita Moreno in it. Come on, guys. She has an EGOT, she has an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. She is incredible. She plays the grandmother, and it's so funny. It has Justina Machado, I think you pronounce it, in it. It's very authentic feeling, I think. I can't comment completely. I haven't seen any negative reviews on how it represents the Hispanic culture, and I think that's beautiful. I think the storylines they actually deal with are simultaneously really depressing but hilarious. They managed to touch on really serious subjects and maintain the humour. It's so clever. I loved it. Then we have The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which I finished this week, and I was not expecting to enjoy this, but Rachel Brosnahan is absolutely incredible as Midge. She just kills it. I feel like she's in every scene, to be honest, and she just delivers such a quirky performance that you just love it. It's very relatable, it's very fun. It's a feel-good TV show. It's a bit weird, because if you don't know what it's about, it follows Mrs. Maisel, who, basically her husband leaves her, and she kind of turns to stand-up comedy in the 50s. It's set in 1958. And that just didn't sound like it was going to work, but it won 2 Golden Globes, and that was the reason I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. It was amazing, really funny, definitely worth the watch. The other TV shows I'm currently watching that haven't finished yet for the season, How to Get Away with Murder is still my favourite TV show on television. I just can't deal with that show. I absolutely adore it. Viola Davis kills every scene. Aja Naomi King is currently up there with one of my favourite actresses of all time at the moment. She is the best supporting character in that show by so much. I adore her. I need her to be in everything. This show is amazing. It follows Annalise and her law students, and they're solving law things, and it's really clever, and they have really good story arcs, and I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to. Just, if you haven't watched How to Get Away with Murder yet, do it. Do it. Other TV shows that I'm loving, The Magicians. They're on season 3. It's been renewed for season 4, which I'm so excited for. The Magicians is the most meta show known to mankind. it treats itself so, like, not seriously that it just delivers this quirky, amusing, but really fantastical story. It does such a beautiful job. All the characters are simultaneously hilarious, but so deep. They have such integrity, and I just love them all. I love them all, especially Margot. Margot is my precious flower this season, and by precious flower, I mean like Venus Flytrap. She would bite your fucking head off. It's so good, so good. I haven't read the book, which I feel bad about, but I just love the TV show. It's just brilliant. I love it. Other TV shows, so then we have Riverdale and Dynasty, which are on the CW, which we got on Netflix in the UK. They're both really dodgy, and I think season 1 of Riverdale was better, but I'm watching them both. They're dodgy, it happened. And the only other TV show that I've finished, which is I've only finished half of this year, because it came out last year as well, that's The Good Place season 2. That show is comedy gold. Like, I don't understand why people don't rave about it more. The Good Place is hilarious. Kristen Bell stars as a woman who dies and is sent to the Good Place, only she thinks it's a mistake. Not going to say any more because huge spoilers for the whole thing, but it's really funny. It features Ted Danson, Jamila Jamil, who plays Tahani, and she is the funniest person in existence. So yeah, actually that's a lie. Darcy Carden as Janet. Love it! Such a good show. Please watch it. I think that's everything for TV shows, so now we're going to move on to films. And I warn you, I've seen a lot of films this year. I have given them all ratings on this thing called Letterboxd, which I'll leave a link to in the description. It's like Goodreads, but for films. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about some of the films I've seen since January. The first of which was 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. That's currently the Oscar favourite. It was really dark, really well done. Didn't particularly like the amount of swearing in it, so I gave it an 8 out of 10 stars, or a 4 out of 5. Then I watched The Greatest Showman, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars to, because that film pisses me off, because the songs are really good, and I really hate the fact the songs are good, because the film itself is so mediocre and lacks a lot of actual plot and realism. Considering it's based on a real life story, you'd think they would have tried more to make it realistic. Instead, it's just a story about a man who was terrible in real life, and they've glamorised it, and I really disliked it. But the songs were so good, and it really annoys me, but yeah, that happened. Then I watched Molly's Game, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to, because I love Jessica Chastain. It is a true story based on Molly Bloom, who ran poker games. It was, without a doubt, one of the most beautiful, stunning things I've ever watched. I just think Jessica Chastain can do no wrong. I loved her in Miss Sloane last year, and Molly's Game was up there as just... her performance is incredible. Idris Elba's amazing. It's really good. Then I watched Coco, the Disney Pixar film that is absolutely beautiful. It is about the Day of the Dead in Mexico. It's very respectful, I feel. I think I loved the fact that they spoke Spanish so much in it, and all the characters, if they didn't speak Spanish, I think were using Mexican accents. So I thought that was really authentic. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Beautiful songs, absolutely stunning visuals, incredible. Then I watched The Post, which I gave 3.5 stars to. I didn't connect with this very well. I thought Meryl Streep is great, but you expect it from her. Tom Hanks was great. Steven Spielberg, great direction. It just didn't really hit it for me, which I'm kind of disappointed in, because I thought it was going to be something I'd really, really enjoy. But it just missed the mark slightly. I think it was telling a very important story. I just didn't quite connect with it. Then I watched The Darkest Hour, which is, you know, the Oscar frontrunner for Best Actor, and it features Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill during the Dunkirk evacuations, which I thought was really interesting because I've seen Dunkirk, and I think having the two released in the same award cycle was really clever, and unintentional probably, but it meant that you saw both sides of this story, and it was so well done. The Darkest Hour, the only thing I had to say that was slightly negative about it is that, once again, it was just missing something in it. I don't know what, really, because it was really well written, a really nice, concise film. it just didn't quite hit the mark with me. I think I went in expecting too much. Gary Oldman deserves to win Best Actor. He was incredible, but it did just miss the mark for me slightly. Huh. Then we are moving on to February, finally. The first film I actually watched on February was one I watched on my laptop, and that was Legally Blonde, because I haven't seen Legally Blonde, and it was hilarious. Reese Witherspoon absolutely killed that role. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So funny, absolute joy to watch. Then Black Panther came out. Obviously I went to see that. I gave that 4 out of 5 stars as well. It was majestic. That film was beautiful visually. The overall impact of that film is so important, and I'm so happy it's doing so well. The only thing I had to say about it was that the plot itself is very Marvel. And if you've watched Marvel films, you'll know what I mean. It feels very Marvel. But the characters in it were amazing, the visuals were amazing, the acting was on point, and I think Ryan Coogler did an absolutely incredible job on that film, so absolutely worth the watch. Then I went to see 50 Shades Freed. Don't know why I did that. Actually, I know why I did that. I went because I went with a guy. And I gave it a 1.5 stars out of 5 because, it's really funny, but it's not meant to be funny. It's, meant to be really, really, sexy and stuff. And it just made me laugh because it was so daft and the script doesn't make sense and the storyline's kind of shit. But it was really enjoyable on some levels, so I gave it some stars. It was enjoyable on that level. And then I watched what I think is one of my biggest disappointments of, quite a long time, and that was Phantom Thread. I couldn't connect at all with this film. I think the plot itself was so weak. The only thing that was holding it up was Daniel Day-Lewis's performance, and his character was absolutely insufferable. I could not stand Reynolds Woodcock. He was the worst character I've seen in a long time, but visually this film is beautiful. The costumes especially are stunning, which you'd expect because it's about a fashion designer, and the supporting performances from Leslie Manville, and I can't remember who plays Alma, but the two women were absolutely amazing in their roles. I just thought Reynolds Woodcock was a twat and I could not stand him. So I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5, which doesn't sound that negative, but, I was expecting to love this film, and I just didn't. It was so disappointing. Then we hit the Oscar home stretch. I'm trying to see all the Best Picture nominees, and I've now seen all 9 of them. So I saw The Shape of Water. I gave that 4.5 stars out of 5. It was so beautiful. Guillermo del Toro did a stunning job on putting together that film, because you root for Eliza and the Fishman, even though it's creepy as shit. I don't know how you made me feel that, but I rooted for them, and it was beautiful. Then I saw I, Tonya. Margot Robbie destroys that role. Alison Janney is incredible. True story about Tonya Harding. Absolutely loved it. Funny, and told in a really interesting style. I really appreciated it. Then I saw Lady Bird, which I think is my favourite of the Best Picture nominees. Saoirse Ronan was so funny. Greta Gerwig did such a good job. Laurie Metcalf, I would actually prefer to win the Best Supporting Actress Oscar over Alison Janney. I thought she did a much better job at creating humour and fostering the kind of relationship between mother-daughter, which both of them really focus on. But Lady Bird's story of just coming of age was so well done, and it has so many good actors in it. I just loved it. And the last film that I've seen, and I'm going to see another one today, so that'll be a different film for another time, but the last film I watched was Get Out, which I have on Blu-ray, so I can actually show something instead of me just talking to a camera. This film is definitely one you need to watch more than once, and I need to rewatch it because I feel like I've missed bits, but honestly, it was so clever, so well acted, and Daniel Kaluuya, I don't know how to pronounce his surname, was amazing in it. I thought it was so clever and really, really hit the mark on racist culture, racism, and I really appreciated it. I feel there's a lot to be learned from this film, so I definitely need to give it a rewatch. And that was a mess of wrapping up things, and I hope I didn't talk too fast, and I hope someone enjoyed part of this. So, what can you do? I will see you soon. Goodbye.